We will now conclude this course with the final module on evaluating our character education initiatives. Any teacher, school, or school district that's serious about implementing a program of character education will want to evaluate the results of the program. Evaluation, if you look in Webster's dictionary, means to determine the worth or ascertain the value of or appraise. So when we say we want to evaluate our character education, we want to try to attempt to ascertain if the program is giving us the objectives that we're trying to promote through implementing this character education initiative. In order to assess the effectiveness of our program, well, we do need to know what the objective was and to gain some data to see if we are meeting our objectives. We will now look at our construct for good character, and as we have said, that good character is the intersection of moral knowing, moral feeling, and moral action. Well, once again, we will see if we want to evaluate character education, we will have to have some specific measures by which we evaluate the moral knowing component, also the moral feeling component, and finally the moral action component. The evaluation of the moral feeling aspect of character is a bit more difficult than evaluating moral knowledge because it is difficult to measure beliefs, attitudes, and feelings. Evaluation of the emotional or attitudinal side of character also often makes use of introspective questionnaires or self-reporting or projective measures. Teachers, though, can use journaling and speaking with students, and also having students project themselves into literature that they're reading and asking them what would they do and why. The validity and reliability of measures of moral feeling are not as great as those of moral knowing. However, one very excellent measure which I found very effective in my evaluations of character education programs is the Cooper-Smith self-esteem inventory, which does effectively give a pre and a post reading of the student's self-esteem, as character education can help build that up. Also, we have to talk about the evaluation of the second step curriculum as perhaps one of the best examples of a very effective evaluation of the moral attitude of a child. And the second step curriculum continues to evaluate their program in rigorous designs similar to the child development, where we have a pre and a post group. We have a longitudinal study. As you might remember, the second step is a violence prevention curriculum, character development curriculum, bully prevention curriculum by the Committee for Children, and it emphasizes empathy, anger management, impulse control, and related social skills. And so they have contracted with independent evaluators to observe students in the elementary school from different schools, with control schools, with similar socioeconomic and ethnic background. And the effect of their evaluation has shown that using this program is very effective for students having less acts of negative behavior and many more acts of positive behavior. And again, in the URL, you can stop and look online for this evaluation of the second step curriculum.
On the other hand, qualitative assessments usually gather data in a less structured way and provide more information about attitudes and motives. Qualitative assessments often consist of open-ended questions that require thoughtful input from respondents, rather than simply marking a box or assigning a number. You can see the value of such questions when you're looking at character programs. You might conduct exit interviews with graduating seniors, asking them questions like, "What do you think would make our school a better place for students?" Or you might ask parents to respond to questions like, "Have you noticed any changes in your child's behavior since the beginning of the school year? If so, please describe the changes."
Some of the questions I've asked parents at PTA meeting if they've seen a difference in their children's behavior at school at home as it relates to common courtesies. I've asked teachers if they've seen a difference in their classroom with students and how they behave and interact with each other. I've asked teachers if they've seen a little bit of difference in the tolerance level that they have for each other in the school, and has it improved their relationships.
Qualitative research generally provides more opportunity for respondents to elaborate on their feelings and impressions. You'll probably get a more complete picture of what individual respondents think about character education. However, these kinds of assessments are more difficult to analyze and require more time, so fewer people are usually sampled, giving you a smaller cross-section. Qualitative assessments can be hard to replicate and, most important of all, the results are much more subjective and open to interpretation. They don't lend themselves as well to being boiled down to statistical data. When you're designing your evaluation tools, you don't have to go it alone. There's no shortage of resources available to help you with this process, many of which are available on the Internet. You can visit sites like the Character Education Partnerships at www.character.org or the Center for the Fourth and Fifth R's at www.cortland.edu to look at examples and get ideas. Use your Character Education Council, an advisory group of staff and parents we've discussed throughout the series, to craft questions about issues that are particularly meaningful for your school or district. Meet with parents, students, and staff to get their input on topics that should be examined. You may also want to get help from your district in compiling your assessment tools.
The district has provided us with assistance in assessing our character education program. They come in and they do climate surveys of the staff so we can see the difference between when we implemented the program and before we were doing the program, see if there were changes in staff feelings towards different things. And then a few years ago, the district had a large citywide survey where they surveyed parents and they also surveyed our fifth grade students. I don't think we would have been that extensive, so it gave us some beneficial information. And then they also come into the school and they do some monitoring and checking on some of our policies and procedures and give us feedback on that, which allows us to tighten up our program.
A good approach to evaluating your character education program is to combine one or more different assessment models of both quantitative and qualitative types. For instance, devise a qualitative survey of teachers, parents, and students that asks open-ended questions. Couple that with a look at factors you can measure quantitatively, such as discipline referrals and test scores. Using both types of assessment should minimize gaps in your knowledge and help provide direction for the future. How would you evaluate character education in your school? Stop the tape now and do activity 4-1. What do you think? It's a personal mini-assessment of your character education program or your progress toward establishing one. If you're watching this tape with a group, share your answers to stimulate discussion.
It is much easier to evaluate the growth in moral behavior and moral action. Teachers can just observe their students and actually see, do they see more pro-social activities? They have less behavior infractions. They can look at the school data and see if they have better attendance. It's easier to measure, but it is true that we have to agree what exactly will be the behavior that we're looking for that in our evaluation will show that the students are living the character education development that we're trying to identify as important to our program. Measurements of behavior can be gathered through the analysis of classroom conduct, attendance and discipline referrals, through anecdotal evidence, observation of students during small or large group activities, in the playground, in the lunchroom, teacher journals or diaries. In addition, there's various survey instruments that can be used to document this behavior. One of my favorites is the School as a Caring Community. Tom Lacona developed that, and good character that he is, you don't have to pay for the use of that. Other programs also can be found in the character.org site. One very effective evaluation is that's been done of the Positive Action Program, which we remember was one of the U.S. Department of Education's effective character education programs, again, they have used a matching design where they had schools that used positive action and those who didn't. They measured standardized achievement scores, behavioral incidents, absenteeism, and found that this character-based social skills and climate program is effective both 2 years and also 9 years after implementation. Their original evaluation was 15 schools, and they continue to evaluate schools, showing an improved school performance, better student behavior, less discipline and suspension problems, less reported bullying, less high-risk behavior, and, from all practical purposes, better character development in their students.
When you begin your character education program full of enthusiasm and energy, you'll try lots of strategies that seem to hold promise. As time passes, you'll come to realize that some of those strategies are better than others. Part of your assessment process should be a system for honestly and objectively evaluating the components of your program. Maybe you'd be better off without some of them. Maybe you need to be doing other things instead.
We have the character word of the week, or character wow, and it is a word of the week that is matched with the 6 pillars. This has one person was in charge of this word of the week, and due to the responsibilities that one person had, it was very difficult to get it done every week, to get the bulletin board changed every week, to get the announcements on the PA every week, and it didn't happen. And so what we did is looked at it again, and we have CHAMPS groups, which are 6th grade leadership groups that perform duties throughout the school, and they are now in charge of the character word of the week. They change the bulletin board, they provide the announcements, and that way we've got 5 to 6 6th graders in charge of making sure that happens instead of just one staff member in the building, and it's made all the difference in the world.
One aspect of our character education in my class that wasn't working very well had to do with no put-downs. And when we brought in talking about put-downs on TV, the kids seemed to get real excited, and it kind of defeated the purpose of the lesson. And so I worked with the counselor on finding another curriculum that I could use to help the students get along instead of the no put-downs.
Remember that as you develop your character education program, both successes and disappointments will shape your future direction. Use the assessment tools we discussed earlier to try to focus on specific components of your program and how they might be improved. Perhaps the peer mentoring program doesn't reach enough students or isn't publicized well enough within the school. Maybe the character lessons lack a particular element that could make them even more effective. Your problems may be as unique as your program.
The district looked at our program, and they have certain criteria that we have to meet. One of the items that we were not focusing on was the 5th grade health, sex education component of the whole person, and that fits quite nicely with the character education. And that is something that we are working on getting, but teachers have to be certified in this training. It is something that the district does provide, and we are looking at getting the teacher certified so that this can happen, and that will just be another piece of the puzzle that we fit right in there, but it is something we're proactively doing.
Whether you're working with a character education council, staff, parents, or the community at large, everyone will have an opinion about character education. When you're looking at making additions or improvements to your program, you have to answer to these stakeholders. As you go about identifying and correcting problems in your character education program, issues may arise that could be deeply divisive. Although it can be relatively simple to establish a list of core character traits, how those traits are implemented can be complicated. Issues like sex education and drug awareness programs can bring to the surface feelings and values that may potentially derail valuable projects. Let's discuss ways to resolve differences when people are struggling to do the right thing. First, identify needs and concerns. What is best for the students? What does the school need? Try to objectively assess the situation. Engage in honest discussions about the needs of your students, both now and in the future. Without this step, you may have a hard time getting past the defensive reactions of some people. Identifying needs and concerns may make it clear to them that particular aspects of your program just aren't relevant to student needs or don't adequately address serious problems.
In our school, some of the major character ed concerns we had as we were looking at that was attendance. A student who isn't coming is not going to graduate. We also had problems with teen pregnancy. When I arrived there, the first year we had 58 girls who had babies that year. So we were very, very concerned about this trend. I mean, what were we going to do to help our girls and the fathers, which many of them were still students, understand the impact on their lives, not just the fact they have a child, but what could we do to help them understand that this is going to be a detriment to you as you try to improve your standard of living.
I don't recall what year it happened, but I know that there was a wave of gang violence. And we had to find out, first of all, we had to educate some of the teachers because they were not aware of what a gang member was. And they were not aware of the benefits that some of our students were getting from gangs. They were not aware of the colors the students were wearing that would identify them that they belong or they felt that they belonged. So therefore, we struggled with that for a while.
One of the areas of character that we talked about moving into was simple courtesies such as students saying yes ma'am and no ma'am. And some of our staff felt that was old-fashioned. It wasn't necessary to spend the time doing that. So it brought about a lot of discussions and trying to determine how we each felt as individuals and where we wanted our students to go with it.
Second, make sure everyone is heard and is treated with respect. It's important that all participants have a chance to make their case without risking their dignity. This is absolutely crucial. If people don't feel they've gotten a fair shake, they'll believe their input has been ignored. They may feel justified in undermining future projects. While it's true that a majority may be able to overpower a minority, you won't win them over with those tactics, and you could very well be sabotaging the character education program.
You'd like for conflict resolution to be win-win, where everybody goes away with something. Sometimes each has to compromise, and but they come to an agreement. And sometimes they have to know it's okay to agree to disagree, that everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and that you do have to sometimes give in order to come to some consensus.
One example is at our site-based committee meeting, we had to figure out how to spend our money. And we had a parent with a special needs child who wanted to purchase some material for his child, and that was of value. But with the limited funds that we had, it wasn't necessarily the best way to spend the money for the whole school. Sometimes that parent could be very overpowering, and previously we might have walked away with purchasing that material even though it wasn't in the best interest of all the children. So everyone had their input, everyone voted, and what actually came out was what the whole committee thought was in the best interest of all children. But he still walked away feeling good because his idea got put up on the board, it was discussed, and I know that he'll continue to participate and give us his input.
Third, everyone should listen to the views of others, whether they agree or not, and strive for true understanding. Sounds simple, doesn't it? The catch is the true understanding part. When feelings are strong, people are prone to misunderstand each other. For the sake of your character education program, try to listen objectively and respond rationally to what the other person is saying. Ask questions to clarify points you don't understand. Paraphrase the other person's statements so he or she will know that you're really listening. You may very well still disagree, but once you understand his or her arguments and motives, you'll be in a better position to offer compromises and solutions.
On our campus, I'm the test coordinator, and that means I coordinate the testing program, and we have standardized tests or state-mandated tests come up. it's a big job. The teachers feel giving the test is a big job, which it is. So they see it from their point of view. When we change the schedule, when we shut the school building down and say, we can't move to special classes because people are testing, we can't do this or do that. And they see it from their room, from their perspective, whereas I'm trying to look at everyone's perspective. And so there's conflict there when they want to be able to have their students go to their special areas or have their planning period. That's a hard time, it's a very stressful time for everyone. So I had one teacher present it, say, why can't we do it this way? Why can't you look at the schedule changing this way? And I said, because of this. And so eventually we were able to sit down, and I could hear her see the things through her eyes. She was able to see them through mine. And then we made a few changes. Not, we compromised to a point. We couldn't, some things have to stay the same, but we were able to make both parties a little bit happier, which made a difference for her and for myself, knowing that, because we try to make them happy at that point, because it's a very stressful time. So it worked.
Finally, identify areas of common interest. This is where it's time to build some workable solutions everyone can live with. Ask questions like, how important is it to you that we continue using this conflict resolution curriculum? Then you can create a framework for agreement by asking, if I could show you how we could teach the same skills while also incorporating a better peer mentoring component, would you agree to examine this new curriculum? Your goal should be to resolve as many wants and needs as possible.
In looking at our teenage pregnancy problem, we involve the YMCA and the YWCA because they have some very successful programs nationwide that have helped the girls. Not only do they talk to them about abstinence and other means of not having children, they talk to them about how to care for their child once they have them. We integrate that with our parenting program. Those home economics teachers are trained in child development. So we do a lot of educating them on how to appropriately care for the child they have. And we also work with the young fathers that we can find. We have a Parenting for Young Fathers course, so they understand that their role is important, and that the young baby needs both parents, even if they're not married, and that the obligation of taking care of a child. We have found that once they understand this, they're less likely to have more than one.
We resolved our gang-related conflict by having, first of all, we had meetings with the parents, a group of teachers, counselors, the principal. We got involved in after-school program for the parents, because the parents needed help. What do I do with this child? Then we also started some new programs, not only the regular athletic programs that you would have. We started some motivational programs in the evenings after school for the young people who were involved. We gave them an out. We gave them an alternative to what they were doing.
There was a group that wanted to teach children those basic manners of yes ma'am and no ma'am, and there was a group that felt that it wasn't necessary. So what we agreed to do was pilot it in a small part of the building. I wonder also if some of the concerns weren't surrounding the fact that the expectation was not only that the students would say it, but the adults would say yes ma'am and no ma'am to the students also. So it was begun in a few classes, and it caught on because the children learned to say it to that teacher, and then when they went on to the next teacher, they continued it. So it was almost as if the children resolved it. They became comfortable with it, and they forced the issue with the rest of the staff.
You must look into people as well as at them. Lord Chesterfield.
As we conclude this module and this course, you can look at your own classroom and see some things that you can implement this coming term that can improve your character development of your students as you teach. You can also look further from your classroom into your school and see if there are some suggestions you can make to the administration of how it can become more of a character building school. Does your school mission statement address character qualities? Can you get on a committee to perhaps add those in? Does your school motto have some character building traits in it? How about your school mascot? Can you look at him or this mascot as a person of character? Does your school handbook mention responsible, respectful behaviors? Have you and other teachers in your school identified some key character traits you'd like promoted throughout the school? Are these character traits taught directly and integrated in all subjects and at all levels in your school? In fact, do you see the students living these character traits outside the classroom, in the halls, the playground, in the community? Do you use the bulletin boards and the PA announcements, the assemblies, and the celebrations you have in your school to highlight these character qualities? Do you give students opportunities to live these character qualities through service to the school, the community, and others? And finally, does your school have some method of evaluating your character education program and initiatives? I wish you good luck in implementing character education in your classroom, and I encourage you to think about getting character education into your whole school. A great follow-up class to this course is the course Becoming a School of Character, where we talk about these components and the 11 components that make up effective schools of character, which have been highlighted in this course to hopefully give you some ideas of how you can improve your own class and your work as a character educator. Finally, I'd love to encourage you to evaluate this class and really give me ideas of what worked and what are the things you'd like to see in this class. What are some things you've done in other online classes that you found helpful? Each of us has to continue developing ourselves as teachers, and I want to do that too, because that's actually one way we can also develop our character to be the best teacher that we can and hopefully make this a better school and then also make it a better world by promoting character education. Thanks for being in this class. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed having you.